The first time I found another man's watch on my nightstand, I thought maybe I was losing my mind. Not because finding it there was impossible. Hell, stranger things have happened in suburban North Carolina. But because my wife Janelle's explanation was so rehearsed it sounded like she'd practiced it in front of a mirror. "Oh, that? Martin dropped it at the office yesterday. I told him I'd return it today." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Martin Kessler. Her boss. The guy who drives a black BMW like he's compensating for something and plays squash at the country club every Tuesday like it's a religion. The same Martin who's been calling our house at 9 p.m. for urgent project discussions that somehow required Janelle to pace around our bedroom in her silk robe, voice dropping to whispers. My name is Adrian Falk, and I'm a structural planner. I spend my days calculating load-bearing capacities and stress points in buildings. Turns out those skills translate pretty well to marriages, too. You learn to spot the cracks before the whole damn thing comes tumbling down. I picked up the watch, a Rolex Submariner, probably worth more than my truck, and turned it over in my hands. Heavy. Expensive. The kind of thing a man doesn't just drop and forget about for 24 hours. "Funny," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Most people notice when they're missing a $5,000 watch." Janelle's laugh came out too quick, too bright. "You know how distracted he gets during budget season." Right. Budget season. That's what we're calling it now. I've been married to Janelle for 8 years. She's an event strategist, the kind of woman who can organize a charity gala for 300 people while simultaneously planning a corporate retreat and remembering to pick up my dry cleaning. She's magnetic at parties, the person everyone gravitates toward, always perfectly dressed and saying exactly the right thing at the right time. For years, I felt lucky. Lucky that someone like her would choose someone like me. Now I'm starting to think I was just naive. The signs had been building for months. The late meetings that stretched past midnight. The new gym membership she'd suddenly developed enthusiasm for, complete with matching workout outfits that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The way she'd started showering immediately after coming home, like she was washing something off. But it was the phone that really got my attention. Janelle used to leave it lying around everywhere. Kitchen counter, coffee table, bathroom sink. Lately it goes everywhere with her. Bathroom, bedroom, even out to check the mail. And when it buzzes, she gets this look. Not annoyed or distracted, but anticipatory. Like she's been waiting for that specific message. I'm not Liam Neeson, but I have a particular set of skills. Excel spreadsheets, project management, and, apparently, paranoia. That night, after Janelle fell asleep, I sat in my home office and did what I do best. I organized information. Started a spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, time Janelle left for work. Column C, time she returned. Column D, excuse given. Column E, suspicious details. The pattern was clearer than I wanted it to be. Every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 weeks, she'd been getting home after 11 p.m., always with the same explanation. Martin needed help with the Morrison account. The Morrison account that had supposedly been finalized 2 months ago. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. 42 years old, and I was tracking my wife's movements like some kind of private investigator. The thought should have made me feel pathetic. Instead, it made me feel methodical. My phone buzzed. Text from my work buddy Aiden. "Beer tomorrow? Sarah's working late again." Sarah's his wife. Also works late a lot these days. I wondered if Aiden had his own spreadsheet going. "Sure," I texted back. Might need more than one. The next evening, I met Aiden at Murphy's, a dive bar about 10 minutes from our neighborhood. The kind of place with sticky floors and bartenders who don't ask questions. Aiden was already 3 beers in when I arrived, which told me everything I needed to know about how his day had gone. "Women," he said by way of greeting, sliding a beer across the table. Can't live with them. Can't figure out what the hell they're thinking. Sarah still working those mysterious overtime hours? Every damn night this week. He took a long pull from his bottle. Says they're restructuring the entire marketing department. Apparently restructuring requires a lot of after-hours collaboration. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, two middle-aged guys nursing our beers and our suspicions. Finally, Aiden looked up. You ever think about hiring a private investigator? Crossed my mind, I admitted. But I'm pretty good at investigating things myself. Yeah? Find anything interesting? I thought about the watch, about Janelle's new shower routine, about the way she'd started saying Martin's name with just a little too much familiarity. Let's just say I'm developing a theory. Aiden nodded slowly. Theories are dangerous things. Once you have one, you start looking for evidence to support it. What if the evidence is already there? Then you're probably screwed. When I got home that night, Janelle was in the living room, laptop open, surrounded by what looked like event planning materials. She glanced up when I walked in, and for just a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt? Annoyance? Hard to tell. How was your evening with Aiden? She asked, voice carefully neutral. Fine, just a couple of beers. I sat down on the couch next to her, close enough to see her screen. Spreadsheets, budget projections, all looked legitimate. Working late again? The Henderson wedding is next month. Still have a million details to sort out. She closed the laptop a little too quickly. I might need to work this weekend too. Martin wants to review all the vendor contracts. Martin again. Always Martin. Seems like he's pretty hands-on for a boss. He's thorough. I respect that about him. Respect. Right. That weekend, while Janelle was supposedly at the office reviewing vendor contracts, I decided to do some investigating of my own. Not stalking. I'm not that guy. Just fact-checking. I drove past her office building around noon. Empty parking lot. No cars at all, let alone Janelle's silver Honda or Martin's BMW. Either they were meeting somewhere else, or those vendor contracts were being reviewed in a very unconventional location. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. The kind of cold you get when a theory starts becoming a fact. On the drive home, I made a decision. If Janelle wanted to play games, I could play games too, but I was going to play to win. That night, I went online and ordered a small security camera. Nothing fancy, just a basic model that could record to a memory card. The product description promised discreet monitoring for peace of mind. Peace of mind. That's exactly what I needed. When Janelle asked about the package that arrived Tuesday afternoon, I told her it was work stuff, structural analysis equipment. She nodded and went back to her phone, already losing interest. The camera was smaller than I'd expected, about the size of a thumb drive, easy to hide behind the picture frame on our bedroom dresser, angled just right to capture most of the room. I felt like a creep setting it up, but I felt like an idiot not knowing what was happening in my own house. Wednesday night, Janelle announced she'd be working late again. Morrison account emergency. She kissed my cheek on her way out, the same quick, distracted kiss she'd been giving me for months. Don't wait up, she said. This might take a while. I waited exactly 30 minutes after she left, then checked the camera's live feed on my phone. Empty bedroom, nothing suspicious, just our unmade bed and the pile of laundry Janelle had been meaning to fold for 3 days. Around 10:30, I heard her car in the driveway. Earlier than usual. I quickly switched off the camera app and pretended to be reading. How'd the meeting go? I called when she came upstairs. Fine. Productive. She disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard the shower start immediately. I waited until she was asleep, then snuck downstairs to check the camera footage on my laptop. Most of it was exactly what I'd expected, an empty room. But at 7:47 p.m., about 20 minutes after Janelle had supposedly left for work, the bedroom door opened, and Janelle walked in. But she wasn't alone. Martin Kessler looked even more smug in person than he did in the company photos Janelle sometimes showed me. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. He had his hand on the small of my wife's back as they entered the bedroom, casual and familiar, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. I sat in my home office at 2 a.m, laptop screen casting blue light across my face, watching my marriage disintegrate in high-definition video. The timestamp showed they'd been in the bedroom for 47 minutes. They'd talked, laughed, and done other things I didn't particularly want to catalog in my mental spreadsheet. But I did anyway, because that's who I am. Adrian Falk, professional planner, amateur cuckold, and apparently full-time evidence collector. The rational part of my brain, the part that calculates stress loads and foundation requirements, told me to confront them immediately, march upstairs, wake up Janelle, and demand an explanation. The other part, the part that was getting stronger every day, told me to be patient, to gather more evidence, to plan. I chose planning. Over the next 2 weeks, I documented everything, downloaded the camera footage to an encrypted drive, started tracking Martin's schedule using the company directory and his social media posts, cross-referenced Janelle's work meetings with Martin's public appearances. The man posted everything online, squash games, business dinners, weekend golf outings. Made my job almost too easy. What I found was a pattern so obvious, I wondered how I'd missed it for so long. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Martin posted photos from client dinners at expensive restaurants around town. The same nights Janelle worked late. The same restaurants where our joint credit card showed charges for 2 meals, always paid by Janelle. She was literally using our money to date her boss. The anger should have consumed me, should have sent me storming into Martin's office or Janelle's workplace, making a scene, demanding satisfaction. Instead, I felt something colder, more calculating, like I was looking at a structural problem that needed solving, and I was finally starting to see the solution. I called in sick to work on a Thursday and followed them. Not proud of it, but necessary. Janelle left the house at 6 p.m., claiming another Morrison account crisis. Martin's Instagram showed him checking in at Chez Laurent, the French place downtown where entrees start at $40. I parked across the street and watched them through the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows. They sat at a corner table, intimate and cozy, sharing dessert like teenagers on a first date. Martin kept touching her hand. Janelle kept laughing at whatever he was saying, head thrown back, completely uninhibited. I'd forgotten she could laugh like that. Wondered when she'd stopped laughing like that with me. They left the restaurant around 9:30 and walked to the Marriott 2 blocks away. Martin had his arm around Janelle's waist. She was leaning into him, comfortable and familiar. They looked like a couple. They looked happy. I sat in my truck and watched the lit windows of the hotel, trying to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to march in there, find their room, and confront them. The bigger part wanted to drive home and pretend I'd never seen any of it. Instead, I took pictures. Lots of pictures. Martin's BMW in the hotel parking lot. The 2 of them walking into the lobby. The timestamp on my phone showing 9:47 p.m., which would be useful later, when Janelle inevitably lied about where she'd been. When I got home, I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat down to update my spreadsheet. Added the new data points, cross-referenced the hotel charges that would probably show up on Martin's expense account in a few days. Started planning my next moves, because that's what this was now, a plan. Not a marriage, not a relationship, but a problem that needed solving. And I was very good at solving problems. The opportunity came the following week, during Janelle's book club meeting. She'd been going to book club every other Wednesday for 3 years, meeting with the same group of neighborhood wives to discuss whatever literary masterpiece they'd selected. Usually, she came home tipsy and chatty, full of gossip about who was renovating their kitchen or whose teenager had gotten into trouble. This Wednesday, she came home tipsy and loose-tongued. "Martin thinks I should apply for the regional manager position," she announced, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter with less coordination than usual. Says I have real leadership potential. That's nice of him to notice. He notices a lot of things. She giggled, the sound sharp and unfamiliar. Sherry says I should be careful about office relationships, but honestly, what does she know? Her husband hasn't looked at her twice in 5 years. Sherry. Her best friend and book club co-conspirator. I filed that information away for later use. Office relationships can be complicated, I agreed, keeping my voice neutral. Only if you make them complicated. Janelle opened the refrigerator and stared inside like she was looking for answers. Martin isn't complicated. He knows what he wants and he goes after it. I respect that in a man. She was talking about him like I wasn't even in the room, like I was furniture, part of the background scenery of her life. The anger I'd been suppressing for weeks finally started to surface, but I pushed it back down. Not yet. Not until I was ready. Sounds like you two work well together. We do. She closed the refrigerator and looked at me directly for the first time since coming home. We really do. The next morning, I started phase 2 of my plan. Martin Kessler worked for Pinnacle Events, the same company where Janelle was a senior coordinator. According to their website, Pinnacle had strict policies about workplace relationships, especially between supervisors and subordinates. According to their employee handbook, which I downloaded from their careers page, violations could result in immediate termination. I spent my lunch break crafting an email to Ms. Patel, Pinnacle's HR director, professional, factual, and devastating. I attached selected photos from the restaurant and hotel, along with a detailed timeline of Martin and Janelle's after-hours meetings. I included copies of the credit card statements showing charges at restaurants during their supposed work meetings. I didn't send it immediately. Instead, I saved it as a draft and went back to work, calculating load distributions for a new office building downtown. The irony wasn't lost on me, spending my day figuring out how much weight a structure could bear before it collapsed. That evening, Janelle announced another late meeting, Morrison account again. I nodded sympathetically and wished her luck, then settled in to wait. Around 11 p.m., I heard voices in our driveway, Janelle's laugh, high and bright, followed by a deeper male chuckle. I moved to the front window and peered through the curtains. Martin's BMW was parked behind Janelle's Honda. They were standing next to his car, talking in low voices, his hands on her hips. As I watched, he kissed her goodnight, not a quick peck, but a long, lingering kiss that made my stomach turn. After he drove away, Janelle came inside, humming softly to herself. She found me in the living room, pretending to read. "Sorry I'm so late," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "Meeting ran longer than expected." "How's the Morrison account coming along?" "Great, really great. Martin thinks we'll have everything wrapped up by next week." I nodded and marked the page in my book. "That's good news. You've been working so hard on it." "It's worth it. Martin says this project could really boost my career." Martin says. Martin thinks. Martin. "I'm sure he's right," I said. "He seems like a smart guy." "He is. Really smart and ambitious. I like that about him." She disappeared upstairs, and a few minutes later I heard the shower running. Always the shower, immediately after coming home, washing away the evidence. I sat in the dark living room for a long time that night, thinking about smart, ambitious Martin and my smart, ambitious wife. Thinking about 8 years of marriage and how quickly it had all become a lie. Thinking about the email sitting in my drafts folder waiting to detonate. Finally, around midnight, I went to my computer and hit send. The email went to Ms. Patel, with copies to Martin's direct supervisor and the company's legal department. I also sent a copy to Lisa Kessler, Martin's wife, whose email address I'd found through her real estate license listing online. Then I went to bed and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, Janelle left for work in an unusually good mood, singing in the shower and humming while she got dressed. She kissed me goodbye, actually kissed me, not just the perfunctory cheek peck, and told me she loved me. "Love you too," I said, and meant it. Even after everything, part of me still loved the woman she used to be. The woman she was before Martin Kessler and his BMW and his expensive dinners. But love wasn't going to be enough to save this. Love wasn't going to fix what was broken. Sometimes the only thing you can do with a damaged structure is tear it down and start over. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang. Janelle's number. "Adrian?" Her voice was tight, strained. "Can you talk?" "I'm at work, but sure. What's up?" "Something's happened. At the office. HR wants to see me this afternoon. They're asking questions about Martin and me." I made appropriate, concerned husband noises. "What kind of questions?" "About our working relationship. About the time we spend together. Someone sent them photos, Adrian. Photos of us at dinner." "Photos? That's weird. Who would do something like that?" "I don't know. But whoever it was also sent them to Lisa, Martin's wife. She called him this morning, screaming. The whole office heard it." I could hear the panic in her voice now, the careful composure she'd maintained for months finally cracking. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding," I said. "You and Martin are just colleagues, right? Working on the Morrison account?" The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "Right," she said finally. "Just colleagues. Then you don't have anything to worry about." Another pause. "Can you come home early today? I think I'm going to need you." For the first time in months, my wife needed me. The irony was almost perfect. "Of course," I said. "I'll be there." I left work at 3 p.m., telling my supervisor I had a family emergency. Which wasn't exactly a lie. My family was definitely having an emergency, even if I was the one who'd caused it. Janelle's Honda was already in the driveway when I got home, parked at an odd angle like she'd been in a hurry. I found her in the living room, still in her work clothes, staring at her phone with the expression of someone watching a car accident in slow motion. "How did the meeting with HR go?" I asked, settling into the chair across from her. "Terrible." She looked up, and I saw that she'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged, her usually perfect hair disheveled. "They have photos, Adrian. Photos of Martin and me at restaurants, going into hotels. Someone's been following us." "That's awful. Who would do something like that?" "I don't know, but they're thorough. They have credit card records, hotel receipts, even timestamps. It's like they've been building a case." A case. Interesting choice of words. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That Martin and I have been working closely on several accounts. That sometimes we have dinner meetings or need to use hotel conference rooms for client presentations." I nodded sympathetically. "That sounds reasonable." "Ms. Patel didn't think so. She said the photos suggest a personal relationship that goes beyond professional collaboration." Janelle's voice cracked slightly. She used the word intimate. "What did Martin say?" "That's the worst part. He threw me under the bus completely. Told them I'd been pursuing him, that he'd tried to keep things professional but I made it difficult. Said he was considering filing a complaint about my behavior." I felt a cold satisfaction at that. Martin Kessler, showing his true colors when the pressure was on. Typical corporate alpha behavior. Protect yourself at all costs. Sacrifice whoever you need to sacrifice. "That's horrible," I said, "after everything you've done for him." "I know, right? I've been working 60-hour weeks, handling his most difficult clients, covering for him when he screws up, and this is how he repays me?" She was genuinely shocked that her married boyfriend had betrayed her to save his own career. The naivety was almost touching. "So what happens now?" "They're launching a full investigation, interviewing other employees, reviewing expense reports, examining all our client interactions over the past 6 months. Ms. Patel says if they find evidence of an inappropriate relationship, both of us could be terminated." "Both of you? Even though Martin's claiming you pursued him?" Apparently, it doesn't matter who initiated it. Company policy is zero tolerance for supervisor-subordinate relationships. She laughed bitterly. 8 years I've worked there. 8 years of perfect performance reviews and client satisfaction scores, and it could all be gone because of some creep with a camera. Some creep with a camera. If only she knew. Maybe it won't be that bad, I offered. Maybe they'll just give you a warning or transfer one of you to a different department. You didn't see Ms. Patel's face. She looked disgusted, like I was some kind of office slut who seduced her boss for career advancement. Janelle's voice was getting higher, more emotional. And the worst part is, everyone knows now. The whole office is talking about it. I can't show my face there without people whispering. The social humiliation was clearly hitting her harder than the potential job loss. Janelle had always cared deeply about her reputation, her image as a competent professional woman. Having that image destroyed in front of her colleagues was probably her worst nightmare. I'm sure people will forget about it eventually, I said. Office gossip never lasts long. This isn't just office gossip, Adrian. Someone sent those photos to Lisa Kessler, too, Martin's wife. She called the office this morning and screamed at him for 20 minutes while his door was open. Everyone heard her calling him a cheating bastard and threatening to take him for everything in the divorce. She's filing for divorce? Apparently. She also called Martin's boss and told him exactly what she thinks of employees who use company resources to cheat on their wives. Martin might lose his job, too. The dominoes were falling exactly as I'd hoped. Martin's career in ruins, his marriage destroyed, his reputation shattered, and Janelle was finally seeing him for what he really was, a coward who'd sacrifice anyone to protect himself. I'm sorry you're going through this, I said, and part of me actually meant it. Is there anything I can do to help? She looked at me with something that might have been gratitude. Just be patient with me while I figure this out. I know I haven't been the best wife lately. I've been distracted, working too much, not giving you the attention you deserve. Distracted, working too much. That was one way to describe a 6-month affair. We all go through rough patches, I said. The important thing is that we get through them together. You're right. We're a team. We always have been. She reached over and took my hand. I love you, Adrian. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. The words should have meant something. Should have made me feel guilty about what I'd done, what I was still planning to do. Instead, they just felt hollow. Too little. Too late. I love you too, I said, because it was expected. That evening, while Janelle was in the shower, always the shower, I checked my phone and found 3 missed calls from Aiden. I called him back. Dude, you need to turn on Channel 7 News, he said without preamble. Why? Just turn it on, trust me. I found the remote and switched to the local news. They were doing a segment about corporate ethics, featuring an interview with Lisa Kessler standing outside Pinnacle Events' downtown office building. Discovered my husband was using company resources to conduct an affair with his subordinate, Lisa was saying, her voice calm but her eyes blazing with fury. Not only is this a betrayal of our marriage, but it's a misuse of shareholder funds and a violation of basic professional ethics. The reporter, a young woman with ambitious eyes, pressed for more details. Can you tell us more about how you discovered the affair? Someone sent me photographic evidence showing my husband and his employee at various restaurants and hotels during work hours, the same restaurants where the company credit card was used for expensive dinners that were supposedly client meetings. The camera cut to file footage of the Pinnacle Events building, then back to Lisa. I've shared all of this information with the company's board of directors and their legal department. I believe shareholders have a right to know when executives are using their investment to fund personal relationships. Holy shit, Aiden said in my ear. She's not messing around. No, I agreed. She's not. The news segment continued for another 2 minutes, with Lisa methodically destroying Martin's reputation on live television. She mentioned his pattern of working late with female employees, his use of company resources for personal entertainment, and her intention to file for divorce and pursue financial compensation for his breach of marital contract. By the time the segment ended, Martin Kessler wasn't just facing a workplace investigation, he was facing public humiliation on a scale that would follow him for years. "How did you know about this?" I asked Aiden. "Sarah saw it on Facebook first. Apparently someone recorded Lisa's interview and posted it online. It's been shared about 1,000 times in the last hour." I switched to my laptop and searched for the video. Aiden was right. It was everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, local community groups. The comments were brutal, especially from other wives who'd apparently suspected Martin of similar behavior for years. One comment caught my attention. "About time someone exposed him. My friend worked at his last company and said he had a reputation for this kind of thing." Another. "Feel bad for his wife, but glad she's fighting back. Too many women just suffer in silence." And my personal favorite, "Hope they both lose their jobs. Disgusting behavior." The court of public opinion had rendered its verdict, and it wasn't favorable to Martin or Janelle. When Janelle came downstairs, I was back on the couch, pretending to read. "Feel better?" I asked. "A little. The hot water helps me think." She sat down next to me, closer than she'd sat in months. "I've been thinking about what I want to do next. If I lose my job, maybe it's time for a change anyway. Maybe I could start my own event planning business." "That sounds like a good idea. You're talented enough to make it work." "You think so?" "I know so. You're one of the most capable people I've ever met." She smiled. A real smile, not the fake one she'd been giving me for months. "Thank you. I needed to hear that." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, and I almost felt guilty about what was coming next. Almost. But then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw the news. Karma's a snake. A friend. I deleted the message and put my phone away. Tomorrow would bring new developments, new consequences for choices made months ago. But tonight, I was content to sit with my wife and pretend we were still the couple we used to be, even though we both knew it was just pretend. The next morning brought fresh disasters. Janelle's phone started ringing at 6 a.m., reporters, apparently, who'd gotten her number from somewhere and wanted her side of the story. After the fourth call, she turned off her phone and sat at the kitchen table, staring at her coffee like it might contain answers. "They want me to comment on Lisa Kessler's allegations," she said without looking up. "One of them asked if I was planning to file a harassment claim against Martin." "Are you?" "No, God, no. That would just make everything worse." She finally looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Vulnerability. Real, unguarded vulnerability. "Adrian, I need to tell you something." Here it comes, I thought. The confession, the tears, the desperate plea for forgiveness. "Martin and we got close while working on the Morrison account. Closer than we should have. I made some mistakes." Mistakes. Interesting word choice for a 6-month affair, but I let it slide. "What kind of mistakes?" "We had dinner a few times, talked about personal things. I may have given him the wrong impression about my feelings." She was still lying, even now. Even with her career in ruins and her reputation destroyed, she couldn't bring herself to tell me the truth. The realization was almost liberating. It meant I didn't have to feel guilty about what came next. "I see," I said. "And now he's claiming you pursued him?" "He's trying to save his own job. I understand that, but it hurts. I thought we were friends, at least." "Friends." "Right. So, what are you going to do?" "I'm going to resign, today, before they can fire me." She straightened her shoulders, trying to reclaim some dignity. "I'll write a letter explaining that I made errors in judgment, but that I never intended to violate company policy. Maybe that will help limit the damage." "That sounds like a good plan. Will you drive me to the office? I don't think I can face walking through that parking lot alone." An hour later, we pulled into the Pinnacle Events parking lot. I could see the tension in Janelle's shoulders as she spotted the news van parked across the street, a reporter and cameraman waiting for someone interesting to show up. "They're still here," she said. "Want me to come in with you?" "No, this is something I need to do myself." She grabbed her purse and resignation letter. "I'll be quick." I watched her walk across the parking lot, head held high despite everything. The reporter spotted her immediately and started walking over, but Janelle ignored him and disappeared through the main entrance. She was back in 15 minutes, moving faster than she'd gone in. "How did it go?" I asked as she got back in the car. "Humiliating." Everyone was staring. Ms. Patel accepted my resignation but said the investigation would continue anyway, for legal purposes. And Martin, she shook her head. Martin acted like he didn't even know me. Walked right past me in the hallway without making eye contact. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm starting to see him for who he really is, a coward who throws other people under the bus to save himself." As we drove home, I felt something that might have been satisfaction. Phase 1 was complete. Martin and Janelle's affair was exposed, their careers were destroyed, and their reputations were in ruins. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. That afternoon, while Janelle was upstairs making phone calls to potential clients for her new business venture, I drove to the gym where Martin played squash every Tuesday. I'd done my research. He had a standing court reservation at 4 p.m., usually played with the same group of corporate guys who thought they were hot shit because they could afford the membership fees. I waited in the parking lot until I saw his BMW pull up, then followed him inside. The gym had a guest day pass available for $20. I paid cash and told them I was thinking about joining. I found Martin in the locker room, changing into his squash outfit. Expensive shorts, designer athletic shirt, shoes that probably cost more than most people's rent. He looked older than he had in the photos, more tired. The stress was showing. I approached his locker, pretending to look for an empty one nearby. "Excuse me," I said. "Aren't you Martin Kessler?" He looked up, wary. "Do I know you?" "Adrian Falk. I'm married to Janelle." The color drained from his face. For a moment, I thought he might run. Instead, he straightened up, trying to reclaim some authority. "Look, if you're here to cause trouble—" "No trouble," I said calmly. "I just wanted to return something you left at my house." I pulled his Rolex out of my pocket, the same watch I'd found on my nightstand weeks ago, the watch that had started this whole thing. "I believe this is yours." He stared at the watch like it was a poisonous snake. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. You left it on my nightstand after one of your visits. Janelle said she'd return it to you, but she never got around to it. Probably had other things on her mind." The locker room was filling up with other men changing for their workouts. A few of them were starting to pay attention to our conversation. "You're mistaken," Martin said, but his voice was shaking slightly. "I've never been to your house." "Really? That's interesting, because I have security footage that suggests otherwise." I was bluffing. The camera footage didn't show him clearly enough to be useful in court, but he didn't know that. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "Nothing. I just wanted to meet the man who's been sleeping with my wife for the past 6 months. Wanted to see what all the fuss was about." Several men had stopped their conversations to listen now. Martin noticed and tried to move our discussion to a more private corner, but I stayed right where I was. "I want you to know," I continued, loud enough for everyone to hear, "that I don't blame you entirely. It takes 2 people to have an affair. But I do think it's interesting how quickly you threw Janelle under the bus when things got difficult." "I never—" "Really? Because according to Janelle, you told HR that she pursued you, that you tried to keep things professional, but she made it difficult. That's not very gentlemanly, is it?" The locker room had gone completely quiet now. Everyone was listening. "Look," Martin said desperately, "maybe we could discuss this somewhere more private." "Why? Afraid your squash buddies might find out what kind of man you really are?" I smiled, but there was nothing friendly about it. "Don't worry, I think they're starting to figure it out on their own." I set his watch down on the bench between us. "Tell me something, Martin. Was she worth it? Was 6 months of sneaking around worth losing your job, your marriage, and your reputation?" He didn't answer, just stared at the watch like it was evidence in a murder trial. "I'll take that as a no," I said. "Enjoy your game." I walked out of the locker room, leaving Martin to face his friends and explain why a strange man had just accused him of adultery in front of half the gym membership. That evening, Janelle seemed more optimistic than she'd been in days. She'd spent the afternoon on the phone with former clients, and several had expressed interest in hiring her independently for future events. "I think this might actually work out," she said over dinner. "I could make more money on my own than I ever did at Pinnacle, and I won't have to deal with office politics or incompetent supervisors." Incompetent supervisors. I wondered if she was thinking about Martin. "That's great news. I'm proud of you for turning this situation into an opportunity. I learned that from you. You always say that problems are just solutions waiting to be discovered." I'd never said that in my life, but I nodded anyway. "There's just one thing I'm worried about," she continued. "The legal stuff. Ms. Patel said they might pursue criminal charges if they find evidence that company resources were misused for personal purposes." Criminal charges? Fraud, apparently. If they can prove that Martin approved fake expense reports or used company credit cards for personal entertainment, it becomes a criminal matter. I felt a cold thrill of satisfaction. I hadn't considered the possibility of criminal charges when I'd started this, but it was a nice bonus. "Would you be implicated in that?" "I don't think so. I never approved any expenses or filed any false reports. That was all Martin's doing." She paused. "I just hope whoever sent those photos to HR is satisfied now. They've destroyed 2 careers and a marriage. I hope it was worth it to them." I looked across the table at my wife, still beautiful, still magnetic, still completely unaware that she was having dinner with her destroyer. "I'm sure they had their reasons," I said. That night, after Janelle fell asleep, I sat in my office and planned the next phase. Martin's public humiliation was just the beginning. Janelle's resignation was a good start, but not nearly enough. I wanted them both to understand the full consequences of their choices. I wanted them to know what it felt like to have their lives systematically dismantled by someone they'd underestimated. And I was just getting started. 2 weeks later, things had settled into a new routine. Janelle spent her days building her independent event planning business, making calls and meeting with potential clients at coffee shops around town. She seemed genuinely optimistic about her prospects, and I had to admit she was probably right. She was talented enough to make it work. Martin, according to the local business journal, had been placed on administrative leave pending the completion of Pinnacle's internal investigation. Lisa had filed for divorce and was reportedly seeking half of everything, including his retirement accounts and the house they'd shared for 15 years. I should have been satisfied. Both of their lives were in ruins, their reputations destroyed, their futures uncertain. But satisfaction wasn't what I was feeling. What I was feeling was something colder, more methodical, like a structural engineer who'd identified a critical weakness in a building's foundation and was now systematically removing the supports. The opportunity for Phase 3 came on a Saturday morning when Janelle announced she was meeting a potential client for lunch. "Big wedding next spring," she explained, gathering her portfolio and business cards. "The bride's family has serious money, so this could be a game changer for the business." "That's great. Where are you meeting?" "The country club. The bride's mother is a member there." "The same country club where Martin played squash. Interesting coincidence." "I'll probably be gone most of the afternoon," she continued. "Lunch, then a tour of potential venues. Don't wait up if I'm late." After she left, I sat in my office and considered my options. I could follow her again, see if she was really meeting a client or if this was some kind of reconciliation attempt with Martin. But that felt too passive, too reactive. Instead, I decided to be proactive. I drove to Martin's house, a sprawling colonial in one of the city's more expensive neighborhoods. The for sale sign in the front yard was new. Apparently, Lisa was serious about the divorce settlement. Martin's BMW was in the driveway, which meant he was home. I parked across the street and called his cell phone. He answered on the third ring. "Martin, this is Adrian Falk. We need to talk." "I have nothing to say to you." "That's fine. You can listen. I'm parked outside your house. Come out, or I'll come in. Your choice." The line went quiet for a long moment. Then, "Give me 5 minutes." He came out the front door looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past month. Unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes, moving with the defeated posture of a man who'd lost everything that mattered to him. He got into my truck without being asked. "What do you want?" he said. "I want to understand something. Help me make sense of this whole situation." "I don't owe you any explanations." "Maybe not, but humor me anyway." I turned to face him directly. "You had everything. Good job, nice house, wife who loved you. Why throw it all away for a few months with my wife?" He was quiet for so long I thought he wasn't going to answer. Finally, "You wouldn't understand. Try me. Your wife she's magnetic. When she walks into a room, everyone notices. She's smart, ambitious, funny. She made me feel like I was the most interesting man in the world." "And your wife didn't?" "Lisa and I have been married for 15 years. We're comfortable together, but comfortable isn't exciting. Janelle was exciting. Exciting enough to risk everything? I never thought it would go this far. I thought we could keep it quiet, keep it professional. I never intended for anyone to get hurt. But people did get hurt. Your wife, my marriage, your career." "I know that." His voice was barely a whisper. "I know what I've lost." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're feeling sorry for yourself instead of taking responsibility for your choices." "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry?" "I am. That I wish I could take it all back?" "I do. But it's too late for that now." "You're right. It is too late." I started the truck's engine. "But I want you to know something. This isn't over. What's happened to you so far? That's just the beginning." "What do you mean?" "I mean that someone very methodical, very patient, has been documenting every aspect of your relationship with my wife. Every dinner, every hotel visit, every expense report you falsified to cover it up. And that someone isn't done sharing information yet." The color drained from his face. "You're the one who sent the photos to HR." "Am I? That's an interesting theory. What else do you have?" "Enough to destroy what's left of your life. Unless what? Unless you disappear, leave town, start over somewhere else, give everyone a chance to forget about Martin Kessler and his poor judgment." "I can't just leave. The investigation will conclude that you violated company policy and misused corporate resources. You'll be terminated, probably face civil penalties, maybe criminal charges. Your divorce will be finalized, and you'll lose half of everything you own. Then, you'll spend the next few years trying to rebuild your reputation while everyone in this city remembers you as the executive who threw away his career for an affair." I let that sink in for a moment. "Or you can leave now, start fresh somewhere else, and avoid the worst of what's coming." "And if I don't?" "Then you'll find out exactly how much evidence I have, and how creative I can be about sharing it." He sat in silence for several minutes, processing the ultimatum. "You're not what I expected," he said, finally. "What did you expect? Some angry husband who'd confront me with his fists, maybe make a scene, threaten violence. I never expected this. This? Psychological warfare. You've been planning this for months, haven't you? Every move calculated, every consequence anticipated. I'm a structural engineer. I think systematically. It's more than that. You're enjoying this." He wasn't wrong. I was enjoying it, not in a sadistic way, but in the same way I enjoyed solving a complex engineering problem. The satisfaction of seeing a plan come together, of watching cause and effect play out exactly as predicted. I'm enjoying seeing justice done, I said. Justice? You've destroyed 2 careers and a marriage. No, you and my wife destroyed those things. I just made sure there were consequences. I pulled back into his driveway. You have 48 hours to decide, I said. Stay and face whatever comes next, or leave and start over somewhere else. He got out of the truck without another word and walked back to his house, shoulders slumped in defeat. When I got home, Janelle's car was already in the driveway. I found her in the kitchen, looking more animated than she'd been in weeks. How did the meeting go? I asked. Incredible. The client loves my ideas, and the budget is basically unlimited. This could be the contract that really launches the business. That's wonderful. I'm proud of you. There's just one small complication. She hesitated, and I saw something flicker across her face. The wedding is next October, and they want to use the country club for the reception, the same country club where Martin plays squash. Is that going to be a problem? I don't think so. I mean, after everything that's happened, I doubt he'll be showing his face there anytime soon. And even if he does, we're both adults. We can be professional. Professional, like they'd been professional for the past 6 months. I'm sure you can handle it, I said. That night, I lay awake thinking about Martin's ultimatum and Janelle's new business opportunity. 2 days to see if he'd take my advice and leave town, or if he'd stay and force me to escalate further. I hoped he'd leave, not because I felt sorry for him, but because I had bigger plans for the evidence I'd collected. Plans that involved more than just Martin Kessler. The next morning, I woke up to find Janelle's side of the bed empty. I could hear her voice downstairs, talking on the phone. When I came down to the kitchen, she was pacing by the window, phone pressed to her ear. I understand, but surely there's been some mistake, she was saying. I resigned voluntarily. There's no reason to. She saw me and held up one finger, indicating she'd be off the phone soon. Fine. I'll be there at 10. She hung up and turned to me, looking shaken. What's wrong? That was Ms. Patel. She wants to see me at the Pinnacle office this morning. Says there have been new developments in the investigation. What kind of developments? She wouldn't say over the phone, but Adrian, I'm scared. What if they're planning to file charges? What if someone's been lying about what happened between Martin and me? Someone had been lying, all right, but not in the way she thought. I'm sure it's just a formality, I said. You resigned, remember? You're not even their employee anymore. Then why do they need to see me? Maybe they just need you to clarify some details for their final report. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. Will you drive me? I don't think I can handle this alone. Of course. An hour later, we were back in the Pinnacle Events parking lot. This time, there were no news vans, no reporters waiting for a story. Just a handful of employee cars and the quiet hum of a business trying to move past its recent scandal. I'll wait here, I said as Janelle gathered her purse. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you through all this. I watched her walk across the parking lot, and for a moment, I felt something that might have been regret. She looked small and vulnerable, nothing like the confident, magnetic woman who'd charmed clients and colleagues for 8 years. But then I remembered the camera footage, the hotel receipts, the way she'd laughed at Martin's jokes while lying to my face for 6 months. The regret passed. Janelle was gone for over an hour. When she finally came back to the car, her face was pale and her hands were shaking. What happened? I asked. They have more evidence. A lot more. Someone's been very thorough about documenting everything Martin and I did together. What kind of evidence? Photos, credit card records, hotel receipts, even testimony from other employees who saw us together. Ms. Patel says it's the most comprehensive case of workplace misconduct she's ever seen. That's thorough. But here's the weird part. She said the person who compiled all this evidence isn't just interested in getting us fired. They seem to have a personal vendetta, like they wanted to destroy our lives completely. Any idea who it might be? No. But whoever it is knows things about Martin and me that only someone very close to the situation would know. Personal things. Private things. She looked at me directly for the first time since getting back in the car. Adrian, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Here it comes, I thought, the moment of truth. Did you hire someone to follow me? Why would I do that? Because you suspected something was going on between Martin and me, because you wanted proof. I could tell her the truth, could explain about the spreadsheets and the camera and the months of careful planning, could watch her face as she realized that her husband, quiet, methodical Adrian, had orchestrated the complete destruction of her life. Instead, I said, Janelle, if I suspected you were having an affair, I would have confronted you directly. I'm not the kind of person who hires private investigators or plays games. She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm just looking for someone to blame, and you're the easiest target. What did Ms. Patel say about the criminal charges? They're turning everything over to the district attorney's office. Martin could face fraud charges for the expense report violations. I might be called as a witness, but they don't think I'll be charged with anything. That's good news. Is it? My reputation is still destroyed. Everyone in this industry knows what happened. Even if I'm not criminally charged, I'll always be known as the woman who slept with her boss. We drove home in silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. When we pulled into our driveway, Janelle turned to me. I want to tell you something, she said, about Martin and me. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You deserve the truth. She took a deep breath. We were having an affair. For 6 months. It started as just dinners and conversations, but it became more than that. I told myself it was just a professional relationship, but I was lying to myself and to you. Finally, the truth. Why? I asked. Because he made me feel important. Special. Like I was the most fascinating woman he'd ever met. When I was with him, I felt like the person I used to be before marriage and mortgages and routine made everything predictable. And now? Now I see him for what he really is, a coward who threw me away the moment things got difficult, a man who would sacrifice anyone to protect himself. She reached over and took my hand. I'm sorry, Adrian. I'm so sorry for what I did to us, to our marriage. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm hoping we can find a way to work through this. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with 10 years ago. But something fundamental had changed between us, something that couldn't be repaired with apologies and good intentions. I appreciate you telling me the truth, I said. But I need some time to process all of this. Of course. Take all the time you need. That night, I sat in my office and made a decision. The game was almost over, but there was one final move to make, one last revelation that would complete the destruction I'd started months ago. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to Janelle, an email that would explain exactly who had been documenting her affair and why, an email that would end our marriage and complete my revenge. But as I wrote, I realized something that surprised me. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted something else entirely. I wanted to be free. I deleted the email and opened a new document instead. A different kind of letter, one that would accomplish the same goal, but with dignity instead of cruelty. A divorce petition. By morning, I'd completed all the paperwork. Property division, asset allocation, spousal support, everything laid out clearly and fairly. I wasn't interested in punishing Janelle financially. The social and professional consequences she'd already faced were punishment enough. I just wanted out. When Janelle came downstairs for breakfast, I was waiting at the kitchen table with the papers spread out in front of me. "What's all this?" she asked. "Divorce papers. I've already filed them with the court." She sat down heavily, staring at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. "Adrian, please, don't do this. We can work through this. I made a mistake, but our marriage is worth saving." "Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like our marriage ended 6 months ago. I'm just making it official." "That's not true. What Martin and I had wasn't real. It was just an escape from reality. You and I, we have something real, something worth fighting for. Maybe we did once, but that's gone now." She started crying then, quiet tears that she wiped away with the back of her hand. "So this is it? 8 years of marriage, and you're just giving up?" "I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. You chose Martin over me, and now you have to live with the consequences of that choice." "But I choose you now. I'm choosing us." "It's too late for that." I stood up and gathered the papers. "I've been fair about the division of assets. You can keep the house if you want, or we can sell it and split the proceeds. Your choice. I don't care about the house, I care about us." "There is no us anymore, Janelle. There's just 2 people who used to be married, trying to figure out how to move on." I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "For what it's worth, I hope your business succeeds. You're talented enough to make it work, and you deserve a chance to rebuild your life." "Adrian, wait!" But I was already gone, walking out the door of the house we'd shared for 8 years, leaving behind the wreckage of a marriage that had over long before I'd ever found that watch on my nightstand. 6 months later, the divorce was final. Janelle kept the house and started her event planning business, which was apparently doing well according to mutual friends. Martin had taken my advice and left town, relocating to Atlanta where he'd found a job with a smaller company at half his previous salary. I moved into a downtown apartment and threw myself into work, designing structures that would last for decades, buildings that could withstand whatever stresses life might throw at them. Sometimes late at night I thought about what I'd done, about the months of careful planning, the systematic destruction of 2 lives, the cold satisfaction I'd felt watching it all unfold. I didn't feel guilty, exactly. Martin and Janelle had made their choices, and I'd simply ensured there were consequences for those choices. But I didn't feel proud either. What I felt was free. Free from the weight of a marriage built on lies. Free from the pretense of loving someone who'd betrayed me. Free from the anger that had consumed me for months. I was 42 years old, starting over, building a new life on a foundation that couldn't be shaken by anyone else's poor choices. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough.